Welcome back, everybody. Joel Farrell here. We're going to be doing Deal of the Week live with Jeremy Taggart in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Jeremy, thanks for making time.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on.
So we're going to be digging into a couple properties that are almost in real time in process right now, and looking at this from a lens of a primary residence buyer, house hacking and building their portfolio, as well as an investor lens. And before we dig into that, Jeremy, if you could just give us a little bit of a background on your journey. We were just talking off air that you bought your first house hack in 2016, and you've done 7. But house hack, in your terminology, how would you describe a house hack? And then tell us about a little bit of your journey.
Yeah, so I started in 2016, house hacked a triplex with an FHA loan, and then pretty much all throughout my 20s, I pretty much did a house hack per year. So ended up doing 7 of them. And the goal with the house hack, especially in a market like Pittsburgh where it's cheaper, is basically to have the rent or rents from the other unit or units cover the whole mortgage while you're living there, at least. So that whole time, I basically wasn't paying my own housing payment. That was covered essentially for me all of my 20s. So being able to save money definitely accelerates whenever you don't have a housing payment. Plus, being able to get into a 2 to 4 unit building for 3.5%, 5% down 7 times, it allows you to build a pretty decent portfolio with not a lot of money out of pocket. And then essentially the tenants are paying it off because, like I said, it was set up to the point where the rents are covering at least the mortgage, and then the expenses and everything after I would move out, it was at least break even at a minimum, cash flowing now pretty much all of them. So a good way to start with investing and scale the portfolio at the beginning for sure, without a doubt.
Okay. So one of the questions that I want to ask you as we get along here, you started in 2016. How was it different then versus trying to do this now as, say, a first-time investor? So we'll pull that to the back of our brains for part of the conversation in a few minutes. But that first one in 2016, you mentioned triplex. So essentially 2 of the other units covering the mortgage payment is the goal. So are you able to walk us through just some basics on that first one?
Yeah, so that one, I used an FHA loan, 3.5% down. I got the 6% seller's assist, which 6% of the purchase price the seller put as a credit at closing. So essentially covered all of my closing costs, that 6%. So really I only needed the 3.5% down. And then on that one, I think my mortgage payment off the bat was like $920. I bought it for $125,000, which is crazy looking back on now because it's worth over double. And then soon after closing, I think I raised the rent on the one tenant. The other one moved out. I rented out at market rent. I think the rents were like $300 over the mortgage from the other 2 units. So right away, I was in a pretty good position to the point where not only was it covering the mortgage, but it was actually a couple $100 on top. So that was a good situation while I was living there. And then when I moved out, renovated my unit, rented it out, it was cash flowing well at that point. Now it's cash flowing even better. I've actually since refinanced that FHA loan into a conventional loan. So the payment went up a little bit. I think it's only still like $1,100, but now the rents are $2,900 a month. The tenants pay utilities. So starting off just from that one property, 3.5% out of pocket, it's now cash flowing like crazy. It's worth double. I think the loan to value even at this point is 40%. So I have a ton of equity in it, all from that first purchase with 3.5% out of pocket. So it's over time, you can see as it plays out over a decade, it just gets better and better with the rents going up, values going up, loan amortization, getting the principal paid down each month by the tenants. So a lot of benefits of it for sure.
If you were just to put together a quick mental calculation, how much equity do you think you have in that property right now after almost 10 years?
So I refinanced it, so the loan amount went up, but I think right now I owe like a little over 100,000, and it's worth probably 250. So 150 grand just sitting in it right now that I could redeploy if I wanted to at some point. But like right now, I'm letting it cash flow because I'm kind of letting my loan to values go down a little bit as time goes on. So it's definitely well over doubled because I bought it at 125 with a 6% assist. It's worth at least 250 now.
Okay. And I just shared my screen, or trying to share my screen here if this is going to work. So this is the property that we're going to dig into in just a few minutes. So this is a duplex in Homestead, PA. And this is listed for, how much square footage would you guess this is?
I could look it up right now. This one is 2,100 square feet.
Okay, so is it 2 and 2?
A 3-bed, 2-bath unit and a 1-bed, 1-bath unit.
1 bed, 1 bath. Okay. So as a primary residence buyer, depending on households, if it's single or with the family, I mean, if this were you and you were single and you were going to buy this, would you be living in the 1 bed, 1 bath or the bigger one, and then have maybe roommates? Or how would you? Okay, explain more.
So like if you want to do the traditional, have your own unit, rent out the other, live in the 1 bed, rent the 3-bed, 2-bath out because it's going to get the higher rent.
What do you think the rents are on the bigger unit?
So the 3-2, it'll probably rent for 1,600, and then the 1-1, you're probably looking at like 900 for that one.
Okay, so all in all,
maybe 950.
So 950. And what was the first one you said? 1,600.
1,600. Yeah.
Okay. So what is that all together? 25 on basic math. So all in.
Yeah, at least 25. Yeah, 25.50.
Okay. And my screen's just going so slow here. So because you did FHA on your first one, so from a payment standpoint, I'm going to share a calculator here, and it's listed for $239. And I'm not sure how much you want to share on this because it's a live deal. But what price are we going to be getting in at?
225.
Okay.
And then this one we also got the full 6% seller's assist, which is I always try to get that on the house hacks to limit the out of pocket.
Yeah.
So we got a decent price discount and we got the full seller's assist. So kind of win-win from that standpoint, getting the whole seller's assist, because it's harder in today's market to do that with how competitive it is, especially on these 2 to 4 unit buildings. So being able to get that was huge.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I want to give a shout out to Mark Oshiro, financial firefighter, tuning in from a couple of different places. But yeah, Coconut Wireless. Yeah, I'm on the Wi-Fi for my company here in our office, and it is going so slow. So yeah, I was on live with Mark earlier today. So Wi-Fi is a little slow. I don't know what the deal is here, but so the 6% seller credit. Can you walk us through, as an agent? Because again, you're running your own team. You're an investor yourself, and you're also playing the game, helping other clients get into the game. The closing cost piece of it, FHA, conventional. How do you navigate those waters as an agent advising your clients?
Yeah, so it makes sense to try to get that because technically you're increasing the purchase price by 6% in order to get that 6% seller's assist. So you're getting the money in your pocket today, and you're essentially financing that over 30 years, if you want to think about it that way. So 6% now is worth a lot more than 6% over 30 years. You're taking advantage of that time value of money to limit your out of pocket to purchase the place. Especially when you're starting out, a lot of people don't have the 3.5 plus the 6% closing costs to be able to purchase the place. So it enables you to get into something quicker, and FHA allows you to ask for up for 6% seller's assist. So it makes a ton of sense to take advantage of that when you're first starting out. Plus, it just increased your cash on cash return in general by not having to pay closing costs, basically, because that 6% in most cases is going to cover all the closing costs on the building. And from the seller's point of view, it's the same as offering them 6% less. It's just 6% that comes out of their proceeds at closing. And then it just shifts it on your side of things. It puts it as a credit instead of paying it right off the bat. Technically, you're paying it over 30 years. So it's just a way to shift closing costs. It's the same thing from the seller's point of view, is offering them 6% less, but it's just taking advantage of that. So I always try to get it on the FHA
closing costs
tax for sure.
13,000.
Yeah, that's roughly about
Closing costs on this price range around 13,000. Okay. So you're gonna have transfer taxes, title fees, recording, appraisal, lender, pay your homeowners, all that stuff. So that's about 13,000. So just from a comparison standpoint, so again, 225 price, 3.5% down payment. We just use kind of a blanket rate example for 6.25. Taxes and insurance built in here, PMI. So your payment's 1827. And so if you live in the property, you live in the smaller unit, and then the other one is generating around 1,600 in rent. So you're almost covering your payment in full with the other rent, which is cool. Then in the future, when you depart, if you're at $2,600 in total rent, then you're going to be covering your payment and then be able to cover some expenses. So
yeah, and the other thing on this one is, like I said, the taxes right now are only $980 a year. So what is it? What's the payment when you plug that tax number in?
1827. And then so if you take out, 150.
Yeah, what's 980? Because the taxes will probably take at least a couple years to get reassessed. So they're $82 a month now.
So you're at 1660.
Yeah. So more or less it's covering it, knowing that
the
taxes likely won't go up until you're moved out. Cool. So at that point, that's when the payment will go up to the 1,800, but you have the two rents coming in basically. So it's another kind of, I guess, thing to consider on the house hacks is what the taxes are now while you're living there. But you don't want to get caught off guard. Like, we still want to know that the taxes can go to $250 a month if the property gets reassessed, which more than likely it probably will at some point. But generally that takes a couple years to play out because the school district has to appeal it, has to go through the appeal process. It usually doesn't take place for a couple years until after. So that's something else to keep in mind with the house hacks in particular. That happened on a couple of mine where I was living for free while I was living there, knowing that they were going to go up, but the rents, it would be fully rented at that point to support the higher payment, basically.
Okay. And then you mentioned the 6% on closing versus taking the price down and then paying the full closing out of pocket. So this is showing a 13,000 difference in price, which becomes an $83 difference in monthly payment. But then you keep an extra 12, 13 grand in your pocket.
Yeah.
Today. So time value money. So yeah, I mean, I'm always under the camp of, hey, I want cash in my pocket today to be able to deploy.
Especially at the beginning when you're building and you don't have a ton of liquid capital, for sure.
Exactly. So I mean, if you're talking about 3.5% down, I mean, if someone was going to go out and get an apartment, I mean, they're going to spend probably at least $1,200. You would assume on their own.
Yeah.
Right? And so you can get into a property with a down payment of less than $8,000, have your lease, your mortgage almost covered, if not covered. So, I want to go back again to your journey and the process and the mindset. But why do you think more people are not doing this?
I think one is just a lot of people aren't aware that you can. They don't teach it to you in school. So unless you were exposed to it somehow, you aren't even aware of it being a thing. And then the other side of it too is people don't want to be inconvenienced. I think especially younger people now, it seems like they don't want to deal with being a landlord, even though they know it can set them way ahead financially. They just don't want to deal with any sort of inconvenience or being less comfortable than they otherwise would have been. So like this one, for example, it's a C-class area. It's gentrifying. It's up and coming. It's not like at the top of everybody's list of where they would want to live, basically, but it's definitely on the up and up. So it's an area that a decade from now, the prices are probably going to be way higher there because it's in the path of progress. But like right now, people are like, oh, I don't want to live there. So you would get a lot like that as well, even if they were aware of the concept. So I think those would be the main things that I think of as far as what prevents people from getting into house hacking in the first place, even though they know there are huge positives on the financial side of it.
And which area was your first one?
It was a similar area to Homestead. So mine was in Ambridge. It was kind of a little rough around the edges at the time when I purchased, but since then, values have skyrocketed there because they redid the main business district. A lot more people coming in, flipping houses, coffee shops, breweries, restaurants moving in. So it was an area in the path of progress that I saw the potential. And it wouldn't have been my first place that I would have chosen to live if I could live anywhere. But looking back, it was a great investment decision living there for a year, put up with it type of thing. Now it's a great cash flowing rental. And now I can use that cash flow to pay for where I want to live for my primary residence over the next 20 years that I'm raising a family in. So it's thinking of it that way. I wasn't thinking of it in the here and now. Back then, I was looking towards this point in time where I knew I could make a short sacrifice then to set me up for the next 20 years to live wherever I want, and whatever house I want, basically. So that's the way I viewed it.
What would you say is the biggest headache as a landlord, especially if you're living side by side with somebody and then that's your tenant and then you're the owner? I mean, how's that dynamic in real time?
I didn't mind it, honestly. I think the biggest thing is just like specifically like an up down duplex. It's just the noise, but it's one of those things. It's a minor inconvenience, in my opinion. It's way the benefits you get way far outweigh the minor inconveniences. And then I think like I never really had any issues with them living next to the tenants. It almost, you kind of just got to set the tone from the beginning, I would say, as far as like a lot of times I would just tell them I'm the property manager too. Like the one I'm in now, they have no idea I'm even the owner of the building. And I've kind of made it like that the last few. But yeah, you can kind of set the tone from the beginning to the point where if you come in, you're like, oh, let me know, knock on my door anytime you need something. They're probably going to abuse that. But if you just set systems in place, like any rental tenant situation, to make sure that they're, say, reaching out just through email or setting things up to the point where they don't abuse it, basically. But yeah, I've never really had any major issues with that if I set it up from the beginning like that.
If somebody was listening to this and they wanted to write down 3 things to be able to set the tone and expectation for that tenant, what are some of the top 3 things that you would have done in the beginning to set that expectation?
I always try to tell people just to do email, like repairs and stuff, or anything really, just so it's like there's a paper trail on it and they're not expecting you to just respond right away type of thing. If it's an emergency, that's a different situation, but just general communication, typically just do through email to keep it more formal without them just kind of like blasting my phone up all the time. So that's something I think is big as far as that goes. And just kind of making sure they know the rules, not letting them pay late. If they're paying late, implement the late fee. Just in general, not being a pushover with payment related things, or just repair things too. Like some people will come in and try to request the world on what they want done to their unit. A lot of times it's stuff that doesn't even need done or isn't necessary. So squashing that bug anytime a tenant tries to kind of push the limits when it comes to requests of things they want done in their unit, like letting them know that, look, we're going to take care of things that need taken care of, but we're not doing certain things that aren't necessary, that are just more like super luxury type of things that you're trying to request here. So being realistic with that as well is something that I think is important when it comes to the tenant relationships, to make sure it doesn't get out of hand on those types of things too. And if they're like, specifically with house hacks, like if they're acting crazy and being super loud, like not just letting them continue to do that, not only for your sake, but other residents in the building as well. So kind of like squashing that bug too anytime there's an issue like that, rather than just letting it go because they're just going to continue to do it. So it's honestly like kids, like training kids to make sure they're behaving in a way with tenants, the same concept.
So back in 2016, when you were navigating and deciding to make this move, what was there a book or a conversation or an inspiration? What was kind of the driving force of pushing you on that path?
Yeah, so at first I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. That kind of lit the light bulb on real estate investing in general. And then I discovered Bigger Pockets soon after. So I went down that rabbit hole where they started talking about house hacking and how it's the best strategy for beginners. So that's kind of what led me into that, was the fact that I didn't have a ton of money. I was still in college. It just made sense to jump into house hacking right after I graduated because I needed a place to live anyhow, low down payment to get into real estate, kind of like training wheels on the management side of things. So it made a ton of sense. And luckily I discovered that in college to the point where I could start right away and basically build the portfolio just in my 20s, rather than say if I would have discovered in my 30s, it could have taken longer to kind of get to the same point. So good timing as far as that goes as well.
I mean, okay, so you're reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, soaking in information, going down the path, acting on it. Was there anybody in your circle of friends, family that questioned you? Anybody that followed suit, did similar things?
Yeah, I grew up 100% middle class. So like my parents, they weren't really entrepreneurial. So they were like, "Oh, are you sure you want to do that? It might be risky." The middle class path is just go to school, get a good job, work that job for 40 years or whatever. So whenever I started straying from that, I think they just kind of cautioned me, but didn't really say it was like a bad idea. It was just like, "Are you sure?" type of thing. So that was the most like negative I've had. And then I don't know, I think at that point in time, a lot of people thought it was kind of like unique, or just like thought it was like, "Oh, that's cool. Like you're getting into real estate," type of thing. So I think it's different when you're in your early 20s rather than later. I feel like there might be more people going against getting into something like that, like after you worked the W-2 job for 10 years, maybe. So it helped doing it that young, I would say. It's cooler when you're in your 20s than I guess when you have a family in your 30s, I
Oh
would
yeah.
say, from that dynamic. So it helped from that standpoint too. But yeah, nothing too crazy. It was just I think I just had so much exposure to like people that were entrepreneurial and real estate minded through podcasts and books and stuff that it kept me on that track, even despite what anybody might say anyhow.
Gotcha. And yeah, speaking of network, Mark talking about a meetup going on. I guess this weekend there's a meetup going on.
Yeah, yeah, I think a lot of the out of state, one rental at a time, people are coming into town. So seeing Pittsburgh for the first time.
Any restaurant, bar, food? What's what's one place that people should check out that may not all know?
I think if you've never been to Pittsburgh, restaurant wise, Permane Brothers is kind of like our signature restaurant. It's the sandwiches with fries and coleslaw on them,
Oh,
particularly the location in the Strip District. It's kind of like they take all the Steelers there, like the first round draft picks. It's just kind of like the Pittsburgh restaurant for
okay.
people who have never been here. So that's definitely the one to in the Strip District, the Permane's in the Strip District to check
Permian.
out.
Okay. Okay. Cool. The the first one, right? I always talk about the first one is not the hardest. The second one is the hardest if you're not keeping, if you are planning to keep the first one and not selling it. Because the first one, you get the money, you got the income, boom. But qualifying for the second one with debt to income ratios and having the cash, because most people will sell to have the cash to buy the next one. So being able to have the cash and then also qualifying payment wise in the second one, I always say is the hardest to do. And then you have FHA guidelines, which you can only have one at a time. So how did you navigate the second one? What did you do for the second one?
So that one I just did 5% down conventional. And my debt to income still worked out. I think because the cash flow was so good on the first one and the payment wasn't that high, and I went cheaper on the second one. So that one was only like 50,000. It needed a decent amount of work. So I was able to qualify for that mortgage on the second one without any issues. And then from there, rented out the unit I was in, moved on to the next one. So then it was kind of
But
in
was
better.
that single family or multifamily?
That was a single family.
Single family. Okay.
Yeah. And then that one, me and my now wife, she was my girlfriend at the time, we split the mortgage on that. So we just split that 50-50.
Okay. And so a $50,000 price point, like what would a mortgage be on that? Back in those
It was
days?
like $450. PITI was $450.
Okay. And,
So
and
that
what is it rent
helped.
for now?
That one's renting for $1,200. Market rent's actually probably even higher, but those tenants have been there for like 6 years, so they kind of benefited from the COVID inflation. They are paying $1,200. The mortgage payment, I refinanced that one as well in 2020 to pull money out. So I think I pulled like 50 grand out of it, tax free. And the mortgage payment on that one's like 900. So right now it's just break even, but I got 50 grand from it and it's getting paid down. It's going up in value. I'm getting depreciation on it. So.
Okay. So when you went into the first one, did you have a vision of how many you would want to get or do? What was your plan in the beginning?
I pretty much, from the beginning, I was pretty intent on just doing house hacking until I got married, basically, and started a family.
Every year.
So, yeah.
And from an income standpoint, were you already in real estate with your license or doing a different job, W-2 job?
I had a W-2 job up until the third house hack, and I wasn't making a lot. It was just like your typical starter salary, like 45, 50 grand. I was a financial analyst.
Okay. And then just, I guess, was that the inspiration for getting your license? Say in the game, buying real estate, like might as well just get your license.
Yeah, I wanted to make more money, and in the W-2 world, you can't just flip a switch and make more money. It's just not how it works, unfortunately. But I was driven. I had the time. I didn't have a family. Got my real estate license as a side hustle to make more money. And then I made my salary the first year as an agent part-time. So naturally, it just made sense to do the real estate thing full-time because I knew there was no ceiling on the income and it tied in well with what I was already doing. So that's why 2018, I just went into that full-time and haven't looked back since then.
If you're talking to somebody, or let's just say talking to somebody with your profile when you first got into the game, 20, whatever, that was thinking, hey, I want to get into real estate and become an agent today, what advice would you give them? What would you tell them to go do something different in this environment?
The agent thing worked for me because I think I have a good skill set and personality for it. It might not work for everybody, but the general concept remains the same. Something that doesn't have a ceiling on the income, that you get paid in direct proportion to the value you bring to your clients or the people you're working with. And you can put more time into it in your 20s than you would be able to, say, when you have a family. So that anything that meets that criteria, could be any sort of business, it could be any sort of sales job. Find something that you have an unfair advantage in, I would say, which for me, it was real estate because I did investing. So I could create the niche of working with real estate investors on the sales side, which there was a need for in the market. And being in a market like Pittsburgh, it kind of benefited because we started getting a lot of out-of-state investment. So that just catered to the real estate investing niche that I had kind of set up in the beginning. So that's how it ended up working for me. But anybody that wants to do the same thing, I would tell them to kind of find what they might have an unfair advantage in and what they would be set up well to start or jump into. And then just like for me in the early 20s, it was 70-hour weeks, working as much as I could to stack money and build the business. And now I'm to the point where, like, we're having a kid at the end of this year. I can basically do whatever I want. I don't have to work now. So putting in that time in my 20s, 100%, I would do the same way all over again when I had the time and energy to be able to do that. Is the best time, I think, for anybody if they're driven and motivated to be able to make as much money as they can to kind of set them up for their 30s and beyond, or say if they go to have a family or whatnot. So that definitely recommend that for sure.
And you mentioned you started off, I guess, part-time, still doing your other W-2 job initially.
Yeah, from 2016 till the end of 2018.
2018. Okay. Yeah. And from just from a higher standpoint of just the markets, rates are higher than they were a few years ago. Prices are continuing to stay high, maybe stabilize. From a standpoint of the number of transactions per year, I think national data shows that the number of transactions has continued to go down compared to where they were a few years ago, for historically wise. What are you seeing in your market, just in terms of volume of transactions in your team being busy, not busy, trend wise?
Residential single family, they're down for sure because they're the same. The macroeconomic factors you just mentioned, it's affecting the residential side for sure. But the fact that we just do investors pretty much, ours has continued to go up. I think because us working with a lot of out-of-state clients, Pittsburgh is one of the few markets left that you can get any sort of positive cash flow in. So it's kind of, we don't have that downside that the general market has. So ours has went up every year, I'm pretty sure. Like last year, I think we did 121 deals for the team. Right now, I think we're at like 70 something, and it's September. So we should be around what we were last year. So we haven't really noticed a super slowdown, at least from the investment, mostly multifamily side of things for us, which is another reason why I liked that niche, is because it's kind of separate from the general real estate market to the point where we aren't getting negatively affected by that, like some residential agents might have been the past few years in particular.
That makes sense. Yeah, I want to give a quick shout out to Flavio in Grandview, Washington. Thanks for stopping by, my friend. And if he ever gets to Pittsburgh, apparently he'll be coming on a donkey because he doesn't fly planes. So, Mark, will you be joining in on that ride? That'd be a good little sideshow, little mini series.
The donkey trip to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, travel cross country on a donkey. Some good food, some good drinks along the way. Man, that'd be fun. And then Lauren can bring. Oh, you missed our earlier live. Lauren was kind of upset that the one rental at a time conference in Vegas is the same time as Valentine's Day, and so I was like, you just bring all three of your boyfriends over and make a trip out of it. No big deal. They can all meet each other. It's a good time. Plenty to do there.
Vegas is big enough.
Right. And I was like, I can't make it. I'll have my kids that weekend. And she's like, okay, well, maybe the guys can watch the kids while you go to the conference. Okay, let's go. Interview these guys. Let's go. But yeah, speaking of Vegas, yes, no, maybe for Vegas in February.
Yeah, I'm probably going.
All right. Mark, did you hear that? Don't bring it up again. This episode. Don't bring it up again. Well, we've got a rental property that we're going to highlight here. I'm going to share my screen. This is 1201 Illinois Avenue. And speaking from an investor standpoint, in out-of-state investors, right? Not being able to just walk down or drive to the area and get comfortable with it. You working with investors all across the country. It's an interesting type of an investment strategy. I'm in St. Louis, and there's people all over the country that invest in certain parts of St. Louis as well. So it's common. I'm used to it, but just for the average person listening that may hear this, why would somebody elsewhere want to invest across state lines into, say, Pittsburgh or anywhere else in the Midwest?
The first reason is just the general pricing. say you're in San Diego, if you want to buy an apartment building like this one, a triplex, you're probably paying at least $1 million. So 25% down, that's a decent chunk of change to be able to buy a place. Like you're spending at least 250 grand, which is more than a lot of people make in after tax. It'll take them a while to save that up versus like Pittsburgh. This one 350, and that's even on the higher end for Pittsburgh. You don't need as much to get into the property. So the general buy-in, you can get into something quicker than you otherwise would have been. It would take you years and years to save up for a down payment where you live. The other is just cash flow. So an apartment building in San Diego, you're probably not going to have positive cash flow with a 25% down payment. You're going to be pretty negative. So to get positive cash flow, you almost need at least 50% down, if not more. Whereas Pittsburgh, you can still get positive cash flow in a good area, a good property with the 25% down payment. So those are the two big ones: is time to save up for the down payment and the ability to find positive cash flow, basically.
Okay. So this deal, it's listed for 349, and then price wise, it's under contract. What did you get the price at?
This one was 350. It was one that was underpriced. So we jumped on it, got it under contract right away. So that's why we offered 350 on it, just to try to get it under contract, basically.
Okay. Okay, cool. And so in terms of down payment for this investor, 20% down, 25% down, more, what's their strategy on this one?
Yep, just a typical, they're going to go DSCR, so they'll probably end up putting 20% down.
Okay. And then do you remember what rate they were going to be getting at?
That one, we could just say 7% probably.
Okay. And then property taxes, what would you guess this is going to be at?
Let me see. These ones are 4,700, so they should stay about there.
How much?
Actually, they're 5,028.
Okay, 5,028.
Yep.
Or is that like $415 a month? I'm guessing.
Sounds about right.
And then homeowners insurance.
Something like this, you're probably looking at like $2,000 a year.
Okay, I'll just call it 175 just to round up. So 21's 7%. My payment is not adjusting properly.
I think you have to change purchase price in the top left. Maybe. Or did you just copy and paste?
For some reason, yeah. Where is it? Pulling the payment or the rate from? Oh, okay. The rate is typed in there. Okay, boom. Does that sound right? 22 and change? 2,200?
Maybe. Let me see.
And then as you're pulling that up, so 3 units, obviously this is an investor, so they're going to get rents in all 3 units. What type of rent projections are we looking at?
I got 2454 on the payment
2454.
with 20% down, 30-year amortization.
Okay, guys, because the loan amount is, yeah.
So this one, there's actually a few things I like about this deal. So right now, these rents are way below market, which I think factored into the asking price, because this 350 that it's listed at, there's duplexes in the same neighborhood that sell for 350. But this one's a triplex with huge units. So like one of the units is a 4-bed, 2-bath unit, and then the other 2 units are 3-bed, 1-bath. So the bedroom count on these units is great in terms of potential rent. And right now, the 4.2, it's only renting for $1,295. Realistically, that one should be at a minimum $1,500, and that's
Okay.
like doing nothing. You should be getting at least $1,500. If you spruce it up a little, you're probably getting closer to $1,800. So this is kind of like a value add play as well, because the units are a little tired, but this is a higher renting, pretty desirable area. So if you spruce them up a little, you can get that 1,800. And then the 3-bedroom units, right now they're only renting at 860 and 805, so they're way below market. Whereas market rents at a minimum, you're at least 1,300. Spruce it up, you're probably getting 1,500 on this. So let's say you spruce up all these units, 1,800 plus 1,500 from each of those units. This thing could be bringing in, pushing almost $5,000 a month in income.
Okay.
So it's kind of like
5,000
at its peak. Once you stabilize it,
Okay.
get it up to fully market rents, basically.
Okay. And right now it's at how much?
Right now, let's see, $1,295 plus 860 plus 805. Right now, it's only at $2,960.
Okay. And so if anybody is watching this and they're thinking, what I'm thinking is like, damn, some pretty good cash flow on a triplex, 70K plus closing costs. If they wanted to reach out to you for help, what's the best way for them to catch you?
Probably email. My email is just jeremy@jeremytaggart.com.
Okay. And that's TAGGART.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, cool. And then I've got his Instagram in the chat as well. We'll get that into the show notes as well. So
yeah, Instagram is good too if anybody ever wants to
DM you
reach
there.
out. Yeah.
Okay. So the process of navigating and building a portfolio, if someone was going to do this today, right? The first one, I think you got what 20K under list price maybe on the primary residence one. This one you got looks like it was listed too low and you got it at list price. How does somebody know if they're getting a good deal or not a good deal depending on list price? I mean, how do you analyze all this stuff and compare things?
Yeah, and that's a thing where we will have some potential new clients where they're like, oh, I only want to buy something if I can get it under asking price. This is a perfect example of that. Both of these. The one we got a decent discount on, the other one we had to offer asking price to get this, knowing that this thing has a ton of potential to cash flow once we get it up to market rents. And there's duplexes in this same neighborhood selling for the same price we're getting this triplex for. So it's like, if you were to say, oh, I'm only buying something under asking price because the market's soft, you could have missed out on a really good deal. So that's where we tell clients, it's like, it really depends. A lot of it is knowing what the potential market rents are, what other stuff in the neighborhood goes for, what the trajectory of the neighborhood is. Like that first one in Homestead, that neighborhood it's going through gentrification right now. So like just yesterday, 2 days ago, I sent this to the client that has this under contract. They sold a duplex in Homestead for $370,000. So it's like, it was a renovated duplex. Homestead hasn't seen anything even close to that, but they set a new comp now because that renovated duplex sold for $370. So now anytime a duplex that's renovated gets listed, there's a pretty good chance it's going to sell for higher than what she's buying this one for. So knowing that the upswing on the neighborhood, whereas like there's certain neighborhoods that are similarly priced to Homestead right now, that 0% chance there would be a duplex selling for $370,000 anytime in the next 10 to 15 years in another neighborhood. So it's knowing where the neighborhood's going, whether they're going on the upswing or the downswing, and just knowing the general market rents, what the potential is. A lot of factors involved with it. That's what like me and the guys on my team know, because we are in this market for a decade now, on the streets closing deals. We just know what the stuff is. So it's just being able to spot the opportunities and knowing what they should or shouldn't be priced at, and jumping on things as they make sense, basically.
Mm-hmm. So a different question. So your traditional 2, 3, 4 unit property, you can get a DSCR loan, from many different types of lenders. Once you get into 5 units and above, it's a little bit of a different type of financing scenario. So if you have an investor that wanted to, go big into the Pittsburgh market and they wanted to look at a 12 unit or a 20 unit versus, so let's just say 20 units versus, dividing up into, say, multiple 3s and 4s to get to 20 units. Do you know anybody that's made that decision or in the process of making that decision of going bigger with one structure versus splitting into smaller structures? And what are your thoughts on that?
We kind of see two different approaches to that. So a lot of times we'll have clients that'll buy a couple of these 2 to 4 units, and then they'll want to jump into the bigger stuff. That, or we just have people that just come in and just buy the bigger stuff right away. So it's generally one of those two camps. I would say it's pretty evenly split among the two of them, but I always tell clients I really like the 5 to 20 unit space because that's where most of the masses aren't. With the 2 to 4s, you're competing with house hackers that might not be investors. So it's tough to compete with that when you're trying to make money on something. And because of the fact that the financing is easier, you get more beginning investors in the 2 to 4 unit space. So if you have the money for it, I generally recommend a 5 to 20, just because you can drive more cash flow with those, in my opinion. And at least right now, I think we're seeing a lot of pretty good deals in that space as far as getting stuff under asking price, just because the financing is different. It's tougher to get good financing on those more value add type of deals, like that second one we just went over there. If you were to try to do that in the commercial loan, it's a little tougher to do that. So if you have the money for it, 5 to 20, but 2 to 4s can still be good if you're kind of limited on cash or you're just trying to get your feet wet in the market. But there's definitely a difference between the two as far as appraisals goes, valuations, anything really.
I just pulled up Redfin and I have this sorted as multifamilies in the area. And I think what's unique and I'm just learning this just out of curiosity is you got multifamilies all over the area, all over the city limits. It looks like, whereas in
which is nice.
For example, in St. Louis, like it's very isolated. Yeah.
Yeah, like we got like that one there, Squirrel Hill. That's an A-class neighborhood. A lot of areas won't have multis in the A-class neighborhoods. So it's nice from that standpoint that the multis are located in the same neighborhoods as single families, A, B, C, D neighborhoods across the board, basically.
Okay. So yeah, a few in the 900 range.
Yeah, like we got ones as cheap as 80,000. We got for a duplex up to 900 for a duplex.
So 850. So is this a 4 unit of these shotgun, just one ones probably?
Yeah, it looks like 5 beds.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that it's a lot of these listings sometimes can be set up incorrectly. Never have square footage. Beds and baths are just a crapshoot of how accurate it is. But in terms of area, you mentioned areas that are up and coming, areas that are gentrifying, et cetera. I mean, what's one area do you say is attractive right now in terms of value?
Homestead's one, honestly. And then I like where that one in Squirrel Hill's located there.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that's kind of close to that. So like if you go south, right on the other side of that highway there, kind of right below where your mouse is, like right in that, like Hazelwood, Greenfield. I like that section a lot because it's quite a bit cheaper, but you go right across the highway to Squirrel Hill and the price is quadruple. So yeah, close to everything, but just a little bit farther over. And then you can see Homestead across the river there too. So that general vicinity I like a lot.
Okay, here's Homestead. Okay.
Yeah, so really anything there right across from the East End, basically. And then if you go a little further north on the other river, the river that goes northeast from downtown.
Up here.
So like Millvale, Troy Hill, Etna, those rivers, those towns right across the river there.
Okay. Cool.
Same concept. It's because the expensive neighborhoods are in between the two rivers. If you can get next neighborhood over, that's kind of where it's shifting to, basically, because those neighborhoods, right, like where all the universities and hospitals are super expensive at this point. Like 850 grand, that thing's not cash flowing. So you just got to go the next one over where it is, basically.
So there's somebody that I've had on my podcast. His name is DeMarco Anderson, and this is somebody who came from nothing. In the IT world as a job, had multiple IT jobs going at the same time, working multiple streams, making good money, and he bought a property 4 years in a row, 4 properties in 4 years from North Carolina and also to Houston. He did relocate, and that's somebody that gets me pumped up and excited because he's out there, he gets the game, he sees what the opportunity is, and he's out there, making stuff happen. And from the standpoint of somebody in your network that's kind of either following in your footsteps or you're helping them down their own journey, is there somebody out there that you want to give a shout out or somebody that's got you excited, that's doing the thing and making this thing happen?
Nobody in specific, I would say. We just have a lot of clients that are pretty consistent with it, though. I think the ones that you see succeed they just consistently do what they should be doing over time, versus like we have some clients that get discouraged, like they buy a property and then they say they have some maintenance stuff pop up at the beginning and they think it's overwhelming and they don't want to continue building. It's just the ones that it's just like in real estate investing, you just deal with certain things. Like stuff's going to pop up at the beginning, especially the first few years on a property. It's the ones that just are like, their attitude is just like, it's part of it. I'm dealing with it. I'll move on. It's just part of the game type of deal. So it's just like, those are the ones we see succeed the most, I would say, as far as building the portfolio and being successful with it, versus ones that kind of let the small things get in the way of the big picture, basically, I would say. Okay. In general.
So if I'm reading that answer right, you're not seeing that person doing the house hack strategy and just navigating and doing it multiple times. You're seeing more of the steady investor continuing to build.
We don't have as many serial house hackers now with the youngins. These guys in their 20s now. It seems like maybe they'll do 1 or 2 and they tap out. So we don't really see anybody that's doing a ton of them, I would say, now.
Yeah,
I think you had that generation shift. Like I was the last of the millennials. It seems like the Gen Zs, they're more live in the moment type of deal, I guess, with how they were raised. So I don't know. It's definitely been interesting to see. You don't see as much of that nowadays.
Yeah. Well,
making myself sound old, but
yeah. So I'm 42 and I'm a old millennial. And what are you, like 31, 29?
31. Yeah.
Okay. 31. Okay. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, with Bitcoin and all the talk there going to millions and things like that, it'll be interesting to see.
That's more of a Gen Z type of investment, I would say, because it's quick, instant feedback. Versus real estate, it's slow. It's definitely slow. Like it takes a good decade to kind of reap the benefits of it, basically.
Yeah. Well, I was mentioning this earlier today on Mark's live, that there's a doctor that I'm working with in the DC market. He's making $500,000, which is obviously unique in that regard. But the comparison of Bitcoin and real estate, obviously everyone has their own place in their journey and where they want to prioritize things. And for him, it's like, you build a portfolio, you can, have depreciation, and then certain people will do cost segregation and bonus depreciation now back in play with the new tax bill. And this person had a $240,000 line item of depreciation that lowered their taxable income by basically a half. That you're not getting that type of a line item on your taxes because of Bitcoin. It's a great thing for long term to hold, a hedge and value, a store of value. But real estate, it's just a different game. It's really hard
if you understand the tax game, that's where you can even accelerate the returns you're getting from real estate. It's not just that you're not comparing just how much Bitcoin goes up versus how much real estate goes up. People do that, but it's not what it is. I mean, for me, honestly, at this point, it's more of a tax game. I don't even buy for cash flow now. I'm buying to get depreciation to offset my agent income, because I'm going to get more in my pocket, keep more in my pocket from that than I would get in cash flow. So it's kind of like, the nice thing is you can shift it from focusing on cash flow to the tax game once you get to a certain point. And it's just I look at everything from a risk adjusted return. For me, I look at what's the risk this could go negative, and what's the percentage of each, how much it could go positive, how much it could go negative, what's the percentage of it. So that's how I kind of view everything, rather than just look at it from just the simple appreciation type of thing. But everybody has different opinions on that. I think it's just tough to beat the risk adjusted return and the flexibility of how you can kind of cater it to your lifestyle. And if you have a business, the tax benefits of it for sure.
Yeah. Well, first off, Mark, no, I'm not 50 like you, bro. So cut it out. Because whether you're gonna invest in a business or Bitcoin or dollar cost average on the SPY or whatever it is, like the investing strategy, it is what it is. It's gonna do its thing. Then the question to me becomes, okay, well, if I'm a Bitcoiner and I know that in 5-10 years it's gonna probably be higher, I don't know what's gonna do tomorrow or a year from now. So you're gonna go ride the roller coaster. Then the question becomes, at least in my mind, is, well, how do I go make more money to be able to put more in? And same thing with real estate. How do I make more money to then be able to buy more of it and then let it do its thing? And so I'm going to ask you a question. And you've been in the real estate game and then also a real estate agent and running a business and running a team for a number of years. And you mentioned focusing on investors. What's one thing that you're working on right now to build the business and to continue to build things, or one thing you want to be able to do to continue to build more business, to make more money?
On the agent side?
Yep.
So, as I mentioned, we're having a kid in December. So right now I'm doing my last sprint, so to speak, of working in the business, working directly with clients, selling as many houses as I can myself. So just kind of stacking as much as I can from that point of view. But once that happens, once I kind of step back and not doing the day-to-day as much myself, that's when I'm going to focus more on working on the business to kind of get systems in place, maybe do more marketing, work on the compensation structures. Right now, it's just with real estate agents, you're just getting paid on commissions. I want to make it more of a business to the point where we can offer different sort of products or consulting, additional revenue generating sources that I think our clients would be willing to pay for, that right now just don't exist, because I'm just alongside just working to sell as many properties as we can and help as many investors buy here. So once I kind of make that shift in my own personal life, that's when I'm going to work more on that side of things to kind of really build the business, I think, exponentially rather than just linearly, basically,
Awesome.
as we have been. So that'll probably shift for me starting next year, is kind of taking that role, realizing that I might make less active income in my pocket right away because I'm spending time on things that won't necessarily start producing income wise until later. But I think in any business, you reach that breaking point where if you want to turn it into just an active income source to kind of build enterprise value and increase just the value you're getting from each individual client in terms of revenue long term. So that's kind of what I'll be working on, focusing on shifting here going forward.
So like property management, or like
No.
deals, or like a service?
I think it may be more adding in an off market proponent to it. So maybe doing like wholesaling within the team kind of, or adding like maybe doing more listings from the apartment side of view. And then I think like just offering like even like products. Like I can spend time putting together maybe like some ebooks or something specific to the Pittsburgh market, or just like things that provide a lot of value that just aren't pen to paper yet, basically. So something that provides leverage from that standpoint, but also a lot of value for the clients that are maybe new to the market or whatnot. So things like that, or just like maybe maps of Pittsburgh, like A, B, C, D areas. That's something I put together like that, or even like a school community of some sort. Subscription model where it's like I can still be involved with all of the clients, offering my expertise while still having them work with one of the guys on the team on a day-to-day basis. So something like that, I could see like a subscription model of some sort, adding in stuff like that that just builds off what we already have without going into like, say, a completely different industry, just increasing the revenue from what we already have built and the knowledge that I've built over the last decade working in the trenches, so to speak, to kind of put that on and package it up, basically, if that makes sense.
Yeah. When you say in the game for a decade, so obviously you do the math, 21, I guess, getting out of college, right?
Yeah, I graduated college in 2016. So
2016. I mean, so you're just getting started. I mean, I say that from my perspective. I've been in the mortgage business since 2006. So I've been in the game for almost 20 years. I feel like I'm just now hitting my prime. So you got 10 more years to hit your prime. So imagine what you can do, in 5-10 years. So I really appreciate you making time. And we didn't dig too much into the investment property stuff, but down the road, I'd love to be able to do it again if you have time. I know you have a young'un coming. You said December, right?
Yep, end of December.
So congrats, maybe a Christmas baby. But
any
other thoughts or things you're working on? Anything else you want to share before we wrap up?
I mean, I'm doing one bird project now, keeping those kind of one at a time, just really good deals, so to speak. But yeah, really just been kind of just focusing on helping clients buy properties here, at least over the past like 6 months or so. And then kind of getting things set up to get into the next season of life for me. So it's kind of a transition point where we're coming up on here. And then we're actually under contract to buy a primary house, closing in October. So that's doing that type of stuff now that the house hacking has come to an end. So just kind of getting into the transitioning from one season to the next, I guess.
I love it. Well, if you come across a youngin that's house hacking and they want to share the story, if by chance you come across that, let me know. But yeah, I'm seeing the same thing. I'm not seeing many people, run that game, even though I believe it's not massively, profitable. But
yeah, these Gen Zers, man, I don't know.
I know. But Jeremy, thanks again. Check him out on his Instagram. And if you have any questions, reach out to him there as well. And we'll talk soon.